"I sleep in there," the girl told the millionaire, but there was a safe, and when they opened it, they discovered something that changed their lives. Comment what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10, and let me know which city you're watching from. I really want to know if you liked my story and get to know you better, so subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The roar of the helicopter sliced through the blue sky of Iron Ridge when Theodore Sterling spotted something that made his heart race. Down below, in the middle of the city's old decommissioned landfill, a small figure slept peacefully on a pile of debris, as if that desolate place were the most comfortable room in the world. At 52, Theodore had seen a lot in his life. Heir to a business empire he had built from scratch, after the mysterious departure of his grandfather Everett, he was used to making quick, precise decisions, but nothing had prepared him for that scene. "Land here, Robert," he ordered the pilot, pointing to a clear area near the landfill. "I need to check something." Robert frowned. "Mr. Sterling, that place is dangerous. There could be toxic materials, animals." "Land," Theodore repeated, his voice carrying the authority of someone not used to being questioned. The helicopter landed, kicking up a cloud of red dust. Theodore jumped out before the rotor blades had even completely stopped spinning, his business suit utterly out of place in that environment. His Italian shoes sank into the uneven ground as he approached the girl. She was 4 years old at most, with tangled brown hair and a little flowered dress that had seen better days. But what really caught his attention was the object next to the child, a gleaming golden safe, completely out of place in that scene of abandonment. The girl woke up to the sound of his footsteps. Her large brown eyes opened slowly, without fear, only curiosity. She sat up, rubbed her eyes with her dirty little hands, and smiled. "Hi," she said simply, as if finding a man in a suit in a landfill was the most normal thing in the world. Theodore knelt, trying to get down to her level. "Hi, little one. What's your name?" "Lily," she answered, playing with a rag doll by her side. "How did you get here? By helicopter. And you? Where are your parents?" Lily's smile faded slightly. "I don't have a mommy and daddy. I had Grandma Beatrice, but she went away a long time ago." Theodore felt a tightness in his chest. "Went away how, dear?" "To heaven," Lily replied naturally. "She got sick and then she went away. But she said I had to stay here and take care of the safe until the man from the sky arrived." Theodore looked around. The girl had created a kind of shelter among the debris, using pieces of wood and tarpaulin to form walls. There were some rusty utensils, clothes hanging on makeshift rods, and even some children's drawings taped to the walls of her peculiar home. "Lily, how long have you been living here?" She counted on her dirty little fingers. 3 big moons, she said, referring to the months in a way a child would understand. "And this safe? Where did it come from?" Lily's eyes sparkled. "It's always been here. Grandma said I know how to open it, but I can only do it when the man from the sky comes." "Are you the man from the sky?" Theodore looked at the helicopter behind him and then at the girl. "Maybe I am, yes." Lily stood up and walked over to the safe with the naturalness of someone who had repeated that ritual for a long time. Her small hands found a sequence of buttons hidden on the side of the golden object. With precise movements that seemed impossible for a 4-year-old child, she pressed the buttons in a specific order. The safe opened with a soft click. Theodore approached, his heart pounding. Inside were old documents, yellowed photographs, and a smaller box. He carefully picked up one of the papers. It was a property deed, dated 30 years ago, signed by Everett Sterling, his grandfather. The grandfather who had mysteriously disappeared during a business trip to this very region 3 decades ago, leaving behind a business empire and a devastated family. The grandfather whose whereabouts had never been discovered despite all the investigations and searches. "Lily," Theodore said, his voice trembling slightly, Your grandmother Beatrice. What was she like? Very old, with all white hair. She sang to me and talked about the sad man who used to visit her. He had eyes just like yours. Theodore felt the world spin around him. He took one of the photographs from the safe. It was Everett, much older than in the last pictures the family had of him, standing next to a woman with white hair and a small child who was clearly a baby Lily. Lily, do you trust me? The girl looked at him with those big eyes and nodded. Do you want to come with me to a safe place with good food and a soft bed? Lily looked around her makeshift home, then at the open safe, and finally back at Theodore. Grandma said that when the man from the sky came, I could go with him, but I have to take my drawings. Theodore smiled for the first time since he had landed. Of course you can take your drawings, and we'll take the safe too. As he helped Lily gather her few belongings, Theodore couldn't stop thinking about the implications of the discovery. His grandfather's safe, an orphan child who knew how to open it, a mysterious grandmother who had cared for a man with eyes just like his. But there was something more, something that bothered him as he carried Lily to the helicopter. If her grandmother Beatrice had really known Everett, if she had taken care of him all these years, why did no one in the family know? Why had his grandfather never tried to get in touch? And more importantly, who had made sure that never happened? As the helicopter took off, with Lily looking out the window in amazement, Theodore knew he had just opened a door that had been locked for 30 years, and he had a feeling that some people would not be happy about it. Theodore's mansion in Iron Ridge was perched on a hill, surrounded by gardens that contrasted sharply with the environment where Lily had spent the last 3 months. When the helicopter landed on the private helipad, the girl got out with wide eyes, tightly clutching her rag doll. "It's so big," she murmured, looking at the 3-story building. "Are there ghosts?" Theodore laughed, taking her small hand. "No, dear. There's just a very kind housekeeper named Mrs. Martha who will take great care of you." Mrs. Martha, a woman of 60 who had worked for Theodore for over a decade, appeared at the main door. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw Lily, dirty and thin, but trying to maintain a brave smile. "My goodness, Mr. Sterling, this child needs a warm bath and a decent meal," she said, already extending her arms to Lily. "Mrs. Martha, this is Lily. She'll be staying with us for a while. Can you prepare the 2nd floor guest room and maybe some suitable clothes for her?" "Of course. Of course. Come with me, little one. We'll get you all cleaned up and then have a nice snack." Lily looked at Theodore, who nodded encouragingly. "You can go, Lily. Mrs. Martha is a very good person. I'll be here when you're done." After Lily went upstairs with Mrs. Martha, Theodore headed to his office, carrying the golden safe. His hands trembled slightly as he spread the documents on the mahogany desk. Besides the property deed, there were certificates, photographs, and something that made his blood run cold, a diary in Everett's unmistakable handwriting. The first entry was dated 15 years ago. "Beatrice took care of me when I didn't even know who I was. The accident took away much of my memory, but not the certainty that I need to hide. Catherine can't know I'm alive. She would do anything to keep control of the company." Catherine, his aunt, Everett's younger sister, who had taken control of the family business after her brother's disappearance. The cold, calculating woman who had always treated Theodore as a nuisance, even when he proved capable of running the business himself. Theodore continued reading, each page revealing more details about his grandfather's lost years. Everett had been in a car accident on the road to Iron Ridge 30 years ago. He had been found by Beatrice, who worked as a nurse and lived on the outskirts of town. With partial amnesia and serious injuries, he had been taken to her home, where he slowly recovered. Gradually, the memories returned. But so did the fear. Catherine had been meddling with the company's books before my departure. I discovered suspicious transfers, forged contracts. When I confronted her, she said it was temporary, to optimize taxes. But I saw in her eyes there was something more. The phone rang, interrupting his reading. It was Robert, the pilot. "Mr. Sterling, Mrs. Catherine called. She said she heard about your unscheduled landing today and wants an urgent meeting." She sounded irritated. Theodore quickly closed the diary. "Tell her I'm busy today. We'll reschedule for tomorrow." "She was very insistent, sir." "Robert, I said I'm busy." After hanging up, Theodore felt a chill. How had Catherine known about the landing? He hadn't told anyone about Lily or the safe. His cell phone rang again, this time with his aunt's number. "Theodore, I need to talk to you today," Catherine said bluntly. "I heard you landed at the Iron Ridge landfill. What were you doing there?" "Just checking on some properties, Aunt. Nothing serious." "Theodore, we've talked about this region before. There's nothing of value there. You're wasting time on fantasies about your grandfather." The way she said fantasies made Theodore realize that Catherine knew more than she was admitting. "Why do you care so much about what I do on my days off?" There was a long pause. "Because you're impulsive, just like Everett was, and that almost destroyed our company once." After Catherine hung up, Theodore returned to the diary. A more recent entry caught his eye. "Lily was born yesterday. Beatrice is radiant. The girl has the Sterling family eyes. I know I can't raise her like a normal grandfather, but at least I can ensure she has something for the future. I've hidden several clues around the region. If something happens to me, Lily will know where to find them." Theodore stopped breathing for a moment. Lily had the Sterling family eyes because she was a Sterling. But how? Just then he heard footsteps on the stairs. Lily came running down, completely transformed. Mrs. Martha had worked miracles. The girl wore a light blue dress that highlighted her eyes. Her hair was clean and combed, and she was holding a plate of cookies. "Theodore, look, Mrs. Martha made cookies for me. Want one?" He watched her face with renewed attention. The eyes were indeed the same as the family's, the shape of her nose, the line of her jaw. How had he not noticed before? "Lily, can I ask you a few questions about your grandmother Beatrice?" She sat in the armchair across from the desk, swinging her little legs that didn't reach the floor. "You can." "Did she talk about your family? About your parents?" Lily bit into her cookie thoughtfully. "Grandma said my mommy went away when I was very little, and that my daddy was a good man, but he had to travel far, far away." "Did she say their names?" "Mommy's name was Hope. Daddy. Grandma always said he had a kingly name, just like me." Theodore frowned. A kingly name. Hope. His hands flew to the diary. Searching for references, he found it in an entry from 5 years ago. "Hope left today. Sickness took another person I loved, but she gave me Lily, the light of my final years. Now I understand why I chose this name for my son all those years ago, when I was still young and full of hope for the future. Arthur Sterling was a good man, even though he distanced himself from the family because of the conflicts with Catherine." Arthur Sterling. Theodore vaguely remembered an uncle who had fought with the family when he was a child. The arguments always happened behind closed doors, but he recalled the name being mentioned angrily by Catherine. "Lily," he said carefully, "did your grandmother ever mention someone named Arthur?" The girl's eyes lit up. "That was my daddy's name. How did you know?" Before Theodore could answer, the phone rang again. It was Mrs. Martha, sounding nervous. "Mr. Sterling, there's a woman at the gate. She says she's from Child Protective Services and that she received a report about a child. She's very insistent." Theodore looked at Lily, who had stopped eating her cookie and was watching him with concern. "Tell her I'll be right down," he replied. trying to keep his voice calm. But inside, a terrible certainty was forming. Catherine had found out about Lily, and if she knew the truth about the girl's lineage, she would do anything to keep the family's secrets buried. The war over 30 years of secrets had officially begun. The social worker waiting at the mansion's gate was a woman of about 40, her hair in a severe bun and a clipboard in her hands. Her eyes scanned the property with a mixture of admiration and suspicion. "Mr. Theodore Sterling, I'm Laura Matthews from Iron Ridge Child Protective Services. We received a report about a child in an irregular situation at this residence." Theodore kept his expression neutral, but his mind was working quickly. "What kind of report?" "Improper appropriation of a minor. Someone informed us that you removed a 4-year-old child from her usual residence without legal authorization and brought her here." "And who made this report?" Laura consulted her clipboard. The report was anonymous, but it came with very precise information about the child's location and the circumstances of the event. Theodore knew exactly who had made that call. "The child was living alone in an abandoned landfill, Ms. Matthews. I brought her to a safe environment." "I understand your intention, Mr. Sterling, but there are procedures. I need to speak with the child and assess the situation. May I come in?" Theodore stepped aside to let her pass, but his heart was racing. If Child Protective Services took Lily now, he would lose the only real clue to his grandfather's whereabouts and the truth about the 30-year-old mystery. In the living room, Lily was on the floor, drawing on a piece of paper Mrs. Martha had given her. When she saw the stranger, she hid behind the armchair where Theodore had been sitting. "Hi, sweetie," Laura said in a forcedly sweet voice. "What's your name?" "Lily," the girl replied shyly. "Lily, have you known this gentleman for a long time?" The girl shook her head. "I met him today. He's the man from the sky that Grandma Beatrice said was coming." Laura frowned and made notes. "And where is your grandmother now?" "No, she went away to heaven," Lily said naturally. "She got sick and passed away. And how long ago did that happen?" Lily counted on her fingers. 3 big moons." Laura looked at Theodore with a serious expression. "Mr. Sterling, the child has been alone for 3 months?" "Apparently, yes. When I found her, she had created a kind of shelter in the landfill. I couldn't leave her there. Do you have any documents proving kinship or authorization to care for her?" Theodore hesitated. Technically, if his suspicions were correct, Lily was his first cousin, once removed. But he had no way of proving that yet. "Not officially, but then I'll have to take the child to a temporary shelter while we investigate her family situation." "No!" cried Lily, running to Theodore and clinging to his leg. "I don't want to go. Theodore is nice." Laura approached gently. "Lily, it's only temporary. I need to find your real family." "But Grandma said my real family was going to come get me, and they did," the girl insisted, pointing at Theodore. Theodore knelt beside Lily. "Listen, Ms. Matthews, give me 48 hours to provide the necessary documentation. The child has been through enough trauma. Removing her again could be harmful. Mr. Sterling, I can't." "Please," he interrupted. "I have the resources to hire the best family lawyers in the country, but I need time. The girl is safe here, well-fed, with medical care if needed. What's better for her, staying in a stable environment for 2 more days or being taken to an unknown place?" Laura looked at Lily, who was clinging to Theodore with tear-filled eyes, and sighed. 48 hours, Mr. Sterling, but I will make daily visits to check on the child's well-being." After the social worker left, Theodore immediately called his personal lawyer, Mr. Frank Cole. "Frank, I need your help urgently. It's about temporary guardianship of a minor." "Theodore, you don't have any children." "What are you talking about?" "It's complicated. I may have found a long-lost relative. I need 48 hours to get the paperwork in order." "A long-lost relative? That's very vague, even for you. Frank, trust me, and run some checks on a woman named Beatrice who lived on the outskirts of Iron Ridge. She might have worked as a nurse 30 years ago. After hanging up, Theodore returned to Everett's diary, looking for more information about Beatrice. He found an entry that made him stop breathing. Today, I discovered the truth about Beatrice. Her real name is Bernice Sterling, my younger sister, whom the family reported as missing 40 years ago when she ran away from home at 16 because of conflicts with our father. She changed her name and became a nurse. When she found me in that accident, she recognized me immediately. Despite my confused state, my own sister saved me. Theodore let the diary fall. Beatrice was Bernice Sterling, Everett's sister. That meant Lily wasn't just a distant relative. She was Beatrice Bernice's great-niece, making her part of the direct Sterling family line. But why had Bernice changed her name and disappeared from the family? And why had Catherine never mentioned having a sister? At that moment, Lily appeared beside him, holding a new drawing. Theodore, I drew our family. He looked at the paper, and his heart nearly stopped. The drawing showed 4 figures: an elderly woman who was clearly Beatrice, a tall man who looked like Everett, a child who was herself, and a 4th figure, a man in a suit she had drawn, flying in something that looked like a helicopter. "Who's this one here?" Theodore asked, pointing to the flying figure. "That's you, the man from the sky. But there's something strange." "What is it?" "When I draw you, you always look just like the sad man who used to visit Grandma. You have the same eyes in my drawing." Theodore examined the drawing more closely. Lily had an impressive ability for a 4-year-old. The details were too precise, almost photographic. And she was right. The figure representing Everett had the exact same eyes she had drawn for him. "Lily, can you remember more things about the sad man?" "He always brought flowers for Grandma, and he sang a song. Do you want me to sing it?" Before Theodore could answer, Lily began to hum a familiar melody. It was the lullaby his own mother used to sing to him as a child, a song only the Sterling family knew. The phone rang again. It was Mr. Cole. "Theodore, I found some interesting information about this Beatrice. Officially, she didn't exist. There are no birth certificates, work records, or any official documents with that name in Iron Ridge." "What about Bernice Sterling?" There was a pause. "How did you know that name?" "It's a long story. What did you find?" Bernice Sterling was officially declared missing by the family in 1984. But here's the interesting part. The person who filed the report was Catherine Sterling. And according to the documents, Bernice was being sought because she had stolen money from the family business. Theodore felt his stomach clench. Stolen? According to the records, she ran off with a significant amount of company funds. The family never looked for her after that. Catherine stated she would rather consider her sister missing than prosecute a relative. After hanging up, Theodore looked at Lily, who had gone back to drawing, now creating colorful birds flying around the house that represented her new life. The girl hummed the family lullaby softly. Something didn't make sense. If Bernice had really stolen money, why was Everett living with her all those years? Why did he call her my savior in the diary? Unless the story of the theft was a lie. Unless Catherine had fabricated the accusation to get rid of an inconvenient sister. And if that were the case, Theodore was beginning to understand why his grandfather had hidden for 30 years, and why Catherine was so nervous about his discovery. The game was just beginning, and Lily was the key to unraveling 3 decades of lies. The next morning, Theodore woke to the sound of a dry cough coming from Lily's room. When he entered, he found the girl sitting up in bed, breathing with difficulty. Her skin was pale, and there were dark circles around her eyes. "Lily, are you okay?" She tried to smile, but another coughing fit interrupted her. "I'm just a little tired." Theodore placed his hand on her forehead and felt that it was warm. "Mrs. Martha," he shouted. The housekeeper appeared quickly, her expression changing immediately when she saw Lily. "Mr. Sterling, this child has a fever. We need to take her to a doctor." "Get the car ready. We're going to St. Vincent's Hospital now." At the hospital, Dr. Richard Morris, Theodore's trusted pediatrician, examined Lily carefully. After a series of preliminary tests, he called Theodore for a private conversation. "Theodore, the symptoms the girl is presenting are concerning. The cough, the difficulty breathing, the paleness. They could indicate exposure to toxic substances." "What kind of substances?" "I need more specific tests to confirm, but considering where she was living. Old landfills can contain hazardous materials, asbestos, lead, various chemicals." Theodore felt his stomach clench. "Is it serious?" "It could be, if the exposure was prolonged. We're going to admit her for a few days for monitoring and treatment." While Lily was being taken to a room, Theodore called Mr. Cole with renewed urgency. "Frank, I need more information about that landfill. Who owned the land? What was dumped there?" "Theodore, why the urgency?" "The girl is sick. She may have been poisoned by the materials that were there." 2 hours later, Mr. Cole called back with information that made Theodore's blood run cold. "Theodore, you're not going to believe what I found. The landfill property originally belonged to Sterling Construction. It was used as a dumping ground for demolition materials between 1985 and 1990. What kind of materials?" "According to municipal records, debris from an old factory that was demolished. But here's the interesting part. The demolition was authorized by Catherine Sterling, just a few months after Everett's disappearance." Theodore sat down heavily in the hospital waiting room chair. "What factory?" "Sterling Industries, the family's first company. According to the documents, Everett was against the demolition, but Catherine got a court order claiming the building was dilapidated and posed a risk. Frank, I need you to dig deeper into this demolition. I want to know exactly what was dumped on that land." That afternoon, while Lily slept under sedation, Theodore received an unexpected visitor. Catherine appeared at the hospital, elegant as always, but with an expression he had never seen before. "Theodore, I heard you brought a child home yesterday. News travels fast." "In small towns, yes." She sat down next to him. "Where did you find her?" Theodore studied her carefully. "Why is that important to you?" "Because I worry about you. You're dealing with responsibilities you're not prepared for." "How do you know I'm not prepared? You barely know me, Aunt." Catherine sighed. "I know more about you than you think, and I know this sudden interest in lost children is related to your fantasies about Everett." "Fantasies?" "Theodore, your grandfather left 30 years ago. You need to accept that and move on." "Funny," Theodore said slowly. "You always get nervous when the subject is my grandfather. Why?" "I don't get nervous. I get worried about you wasting time on obsessions." Just then, a nurse approached. "Mr. Sterling, the girl is waking up and asking for you." Theodore stood up, but Catherine grabbed his arm. "Theodore, let me help. I can get the best specialists for the child." "Why this sudden generosity?" "Because regardless of anything, you are my nephew." In the room, Lily was sitting up in bed, more alert after the medication. When she saw Catherine, her eyes widened. "Theodore," she said quietly, "that lady looks like someone from my drawings." Catherine approached the bed. "Hi, dear. What's your name?" "Lily." "What a beautiful name. And what are these drawings you make?" Lily looked at Theodore, who nodded encouragingly. "I draw Grandma, the sad man, and the angry woman who used to come and argue with them." Catherine stiffened. "Angry woman?" "Yeah, Lily said innocently. Grandma always got scared when she showed up. She was a lady with short hair who yelled a lot. The silence in the room was deafening. Catherine looked at Theodore with an expression that mixed anger and panic. Lily, Theodore said carefully, do you remember what this angry woman talked about? She always asked where the money was, and she said that Grandma had stolen things from the family. Catherine stood up abruptly. Theodore, I need to talk to you, now. In the hospital corridor, she turned to him with her eyes flashing. Where exactly did you find this child? In the old city landfill. Theodore, this child is clearly confusing stories. Children have very fertile imaginations. Is she? Because she described you perfectly, and she mentioned a grandmother you clearly knew. I have never seen this child before in my life. But you knew her grandmother, didn't you? Beatrice, or should I say Bernice? Catherine's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Aunt, I found Grandpa Everett's diary. I know Bernice was your sister. I know you falsely accused her of theft. Catherine looked around the corridor, checking if they were alone. Theodore, you don't understand the situation. There are things you don't know. Then tell me. Bernice was complicated. She was always against the family business. When Everett disappeared, she started making threats. What kind of threats? She said she was going to expose alleged company crimes, things that could destroy our name. And you decided to silence her by accusing her of theft? I protected our family. Catherine exploded, then lowered her voice. Everett was too trusting, too naive. He didn't see the threats surrounding our business. Theodore felt the pieces clicking into place. You knew where he was all these years. Theodore, you knew, he repeated, louder. Yes, Catherine finally admitted. I knew, but he was injured, confused. Bernice told me he didn't want to come back to the family, that he was better off hidden. And you allowed that? Why? Oh, I know. Because with him out of the way, you could control everything. I protected our interests. You destroyed families. You let Bernice be considered a criminal. You let a child grow up in poverty. You let my grandfather believe he couldn't come home. At that moment, Dr. Morris appeared in the hallway. Mr. Sterling, I need to speak with you urgently. The test results are in. Theodore looked at Catherine one last time. This conversation isn't over. In the office, Dr. Morris spread test results on the desk. Theodore, the results confirm severe exposure to toxic materials, asbestos, lead, and something even more concerning. What? Specific chemical residues from industrial processes of the 1980s, compounds that were used in paints and solvents, but were banned for causing severe lung damage. Theodore felt anger burn in his chest. Doctor, these materials, could they come from a paint factory? Yes, certainly. Why do you ask? Because I think I know exactly which factory it was. When Theodore returned to Lily's room, he found the girl drawing again, though weakened. This time, she had drawn a factory being torn down, with trucks carrying debris to a hole in the ground. Lily, where did this drawing come from? Grandma used to tell this story. She said the angry woman had the house where the sad man worked torn down, and she threw everything into the hole where I lived. Theodore looked at the drawing with growing horror. Catherine hadn't just hidden Everett's whereabouts. She had deliberately created an illegal toxic waste dump, and an innocent child had paid the price with her own health. The war wasn't just about family secrets. It was about justice. During Lily's third night in the hospital, Theodore slept in the armchair, refusing to leave the girl alone. Around 3 a.m, she woke up with a severe respiratory crisis that set off the monitor alarms. The medical team rushed into the room. Dr. Morris administered emergency medication while nurses adjusted the oxygen equipment. Lily struggled to breathe, her small fingers clutching the sheets tightly. "Theodore," she murmured between gasps, I can't. "Easy, little one. The doctors will help you," he said, holding her small hand. After they stabilized Lily, Dr. Morris took Theodore into the hallway. "Theodore, the situation is more serious than we thought. The level of toxins in her system is causing severe pulmonary inflammation." "What does that mean?" "It means we need a more aggressive treatment, and it also means she was exposed to these materials for much longer than we imagined." How long?" "From the levels found in her blood, probably her entire life. These toxins accumulate slowly in the body." Theodore felt the world spin. "Doctor, is it possible she's been poisoned since she was a baby?" "If she lived near these materials from a very young age, yes. It's a slow, gradual poisoning." That morning, while Lily slept under sedation, Theodore received a call from Mr. Cole that changed everything. "Theodore, I investigated the factory demolition more deeply. I found something disturbing." "What?" "Sterling Industries wasn't dilapidated as Catherine claimed. In fact, Everett had hired an environmental remediation company a few days before the accident. He was trying to clean up the factory's toxic waste." Theodore sat up straight in his chair. "Clean up?" "Yes. According to the documents, he had discovered that the factory had been leaking chemicals into the soil for years. He was spending a fortune to remedy the problem. And after he disappeared, Catherine cancelled the cleanup project and ordered an immediate demolition. Instead of treating the waste properly, she simply buried it in the land that became the landfill." "My God," Theodore murmured. "She turned a cleanup project into an environmental disaster." "And there's more. I found the original contract from the remediation company. The cost of the cleanup project was high, but Catherine saved millions by simply burying everything. Frank, I need you to keep investigating. I want every document related to that demolition." After hanging up, Theodore returned to Lily's room. The girl was awake, but clearly weak. Even so, she had asked for paper and a pencil to draw. "What are you drawing today?" "The house where Grandma used to work," she said weakly. "It was a big house where sick people stayed to get better." Theodore looked at the drawing. It was a building that looked like a private clinic or hospital. "Lily, did your grandmother work in a hospital?" "It wasn't really a hospital. It was a house where the sad man lived when he was very hurt." "And where was this house?" Lily pointed to a specific part of the drawing, next to the big church near the yellow trees. Theodore knew Iron Ridge well. Lily's description perfectly matched the area near the Rosary Church, where an old nursing home had operated until the 90s. "Lily, did the sad man live there for a long time?" "Grandma said he arrived all broken, and she took care of him until he got better. But after his head got better, he became sad because he couldn't go home." "Why couldn't he?" "Because the angry woman had taken over everything and said he had gone away forever." At that moment, the nurse came in with medication for Lily. "Mr. Sterling, there's a lady outside who says she's family to the child. Can I let her in?" Theodore's heart pounded. "What's her name?" "Catherine Sterling." "No, she can't come in here." "Sir, she insists she has legal rights." I said no. But Catherine had already appeared at the door, accompanied by a man in a suit whom Theodore didn't recognize. "Theodore, I need to talk to you. This is Mr. August Riley, a lawyer specializing in family law." "Catherine," I said. "The child needs specialized care that you can't provide," she interrupted. "Mr. Riley can explain the legal options." The lawyer approached. "Mr. Sterling, I understand you have good intentions, but the child needs proper guardianship. Mrs. Catherine is willing to assume legal responsibility." "Guardianship? She doesn't even know Lily." "Actually," said Mr. Riley, consulting papers, "we've discovered there is a kinship. The child is the granddaughter of Bernice Sterling, who was Mrs. Catherine's sister. Theodore looked at Catherine with growing anger. You knew this from the beginning. I found out yesterday when I investigated the situation, she lied, and as the closest relative, I have a legal right to custody. Closest relative? What about me? You're a nephew by adoption, Theodore. I'm a direct aunt. Lily, who had overheard part of the conversation, hid under the covers. Theodore, she murmured, I don't want to go with the angry woman. Catherine approached the bed. Dear, I'm not angry. I want to help you get well. You are the angry woman from my drawings, Lily shouted, starting to cough violently. The monitors started beeping again. Dr. Morris rushed in. What's happening here? The child can't get agitated. All of you out of the room now, the doctor ordered. The girl is having another crisis. In the hallway, while the medical team stabilized Lily, Mr. Riley handed documents to Theodore. Mr. Sterling, here is the custody petition. Mrs. Catherine has every legal right to care for the child. Theodore quickly read the papers. It was all very well drafted, with solid legal arguments about kinship and financial capacity. Catherine, he said quietly, his anger simmering. This isn't about caring for Lily. This is about silencing the only witness who can confirm Everett was alive all these years. Theodore, you're being paranoid. Am I? Then why did you never mention having a sister? Why did you never look for Lily before? And why are you showing up right now when I've discovered the truth? Mr. Riley intervened. Mr. Sterling, these are complex family matters. The important thing now is the child's well-being. Her well-being. She was poisoned by the toxic waste this woman illegally dumped, Theodore exploded. Catherine paled. That's a very serious accusation. It's the truth. You cancelled Grandpa's cleanup project and buried toxic material where an innocent child grew up breathing poison every day. Just then, Dr. Morris came out of the room. The child is stable, but I need to speak with the legal guardian. That would be me, Catherine said quickly. Actually, Theodore interrupted, it's still me, at least for the next. He checked his watch. 18 hours. Dr. Morris looked confusedly at the group. Well, whoever the guardian is, I need to inform you that the girl's condition has worsened. The toxicity levels are affecting other organs besides her lungs. What does that mean? Theodore asked. It means we need to transfer her to a hospital in the capital with a specialized pediatric ICU, and we need to do it today. Catherine stepped forward. Doctor, I can arrange for private transport and the best specialists. Catherine, Theodore said coldly, if you lay a finger on Lily, I will go to the press with everything I know about your family's environmental crimes. Environmental crimes? Illegal disposal of toxic materials, poisoning of minors, forgery of documents. Do you want me to continue? The silence in the hallway was tense. Mr. Riley whispered something to Catherine, who reluctantly nodded. Theodore, she finally said, perhaps we can reach an agreement. What kind of agreement? You get custody of the child. I'll pay all the medical costs, and we never speak of old family matters again. Theodore studied her carefully. And in return? In return, you forget these theories about your grandfather and about non-existent environmental crimes. It was a tempting offer. Lily would stay with him, receive the best possible treatment, and Catherine would back off. But it also meant that the truth about Everett and Bernice would remain buried forever. Theodore looked through the room's window, where Lily was drawing once more, though weakened. This time she had drawn a bird trapped in a cage. No, he said finally, I don't accept. Catherine stiffened. Theodore. The truth is not for sale, Catherine, and Lily deserves to know where she came from and why she suffered so much. In that moment, The determination of a 4-year-old child who had survived alone for 3 months became the strength Theodore needed to fight against 30 years of lies. The ICU ambulance sped along the highway between Iron Ridge and the state capital, with Lily connected to equipment that monitored every beat of her heart. Theodore held her small hand as she fought against the sedation, murmuring incoherent words about birds and flying houses. Dr. Morris had decided to personally accompany the transfer. Theodore, at the university hospital, there's a team specializing in heavy metal poisoning. If anyone can help Lily, it's them. Doctor, be honest with me. What are her chances of a full recovery? Dr. Morris hesitated. The toxins have caused significant damage. Even if she survives, there could be permanent consequences for her lung development. Theodore closed his eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility. If he hadn't found Lily when he did, if he had just driven past the landfill as he had so many times before. His phone rang. It was Mr. Cole, his voice urgent. Theodore, where are you? On my way to the capital. Lily is being transferred. Listen carefully. I discovered something that changes everything. The old nursing home you mentioned, near the Rosary Church, it still exists. What do you mean it still exists? It operates discreetly as a private clinic for the elderly. And Theodore, Everett Sterling has been a patient there for 25 years. The phone almost slipped from Theodore's hands. What did you say? Your grandfather is alive, admitted under the name Edward Santos. But Theodore, there's something else. He has advanced dementia. He might not recognize anyone. The ambulance seemed to fall silent around Theodore. 25 years. His grandfather had been just a few miles away all these years, and no one in the family knew. Frank, how did you find this out? I investigated the nursing home's records. I found monthly payments made from an account in the name of Beatrice Santos. The payments were never late, not even after she passed. Who's paying now? That's the problem. The payments continued automatically through a bank account that has Catherine Sterling as the proxy. Theodore felt anger rise like lava. Catherine knew where he was this whole time. More than that, Theodore, she was financing his stay. She kept her own brother locked up in a clinic while she managed his empire. At the hospital in the capital, the medical team took over Lily's care immediately. Dr. Marina Evans, a specialist in pediatric toxicology, examined the tests brought from Iron Ridge with a grave expression. Mr. Sterling, the situation is complex. The child has been exposed to a combination of substances we don't normally find together. What kind of combination? Industrial asbestos, lead from old paints, and something we rarely see, residues of specific organic solvents from the 80s. It's as if she literally grew up on top of a demolished factory. That's exactly what happened. Dr. Evans stopped reading the papers. What do you mean? Theodore briefly explained about the landfill and the illegal demolition. Dr. Evans was visibly outraged. Mr. Sterling, this is a serious environmental crime. These substances can cause permanent damage to a child's neurological development. Neurological damage. Fortunately, from the preliminary tests, Lily's brain seems unaffected, but her lungs, liver, and kidneys have suffered a significant impact. While Lily underwent new tests, Theodore made a decision that would change everything. He called Mr. Cole. Frank, I need you to arrange for transport to the nursing home. I'm going to see my grandfather today. Theodore, are you sure? If Catherine finds out, let her find out. I'm tired of living in fear of her reactions. 2 hours later, Theodore was at the door of St. Benedict's care home, a discreet building hidden among century-old trees. The director, Sister Constance, a 70-year-old woman, received him with surprise. Mr. Sterling, but Mrs. Catherine said the family didn't want contact. Catherine lied. I am Everett's grandson, and I never knew he was here. Sister Constance was visibly disturbed. My goodness, all these years, we thought the family had rejected Mr. Santos because of his dementia. Edward Santos is the name you know him by. But he is Everett Sterling. Come with me, my son, but prepare yourself. He is not well. The room was simple but comfortable, with a view of an inner garden. On the bed, an 82-year-old man looked out the window with eyes that no longer focused properly. Theodore immediately recognized the family features, even marked by age and illness. "Grandpa," he said softly. Everett turned slowly. For a moment, his eyes seemed to try to focus on Theodore's face. Then something like recognition passed through his expression. "Theodore," he murmured in a weak voice, You've grown so much." "Yes, Grandpa, it's me." Where is Beatrice? She comes to see me every day." Theodore's heart ached. "Beatrice can't come anymore, Grandpa, but I'm here now." "Beatrice, my little sister, she saved me when I was lost." Everett's eyes filled with tears. Catherine said you didn't want to see me anymore." "That's not true, Grandpa. We never knew where you were." Everett tried to sit up in bed. "Theodore, there are things, important things, hidden." "What things, Grandpa?" "The safes, several safes, scattered, are documents that prove her crimes." "Where are these safes?" Beatrice knew. She taught the girl, her granddaughter. Lily knows where other safes are." "The girl, she has a special memory, remembers everything she sees and hears." Everett's eyes began to lose focus again. "Beatrice, why doesn't she come anymore?" Theodore spent the afternoon with his grandfather, listening to fragments of memories that emerged through the fog of dementia. Gradually, a terrible picture formed. Catherine had not only hidden Everett's whereabouts, but had systematically destroyed evidence of her own environmental and financial crimes. She burned documents, forged signatures, said I had authorized everything before I left. Everett murmured during a moment of lucidity. "Grandpa, do you remember where Beatrice hid other safes?" "The girl. Ask the girl. She draws everything. Everything she sees stays in her head." When Theodore returned to the hospital, he found Lily awake for the first time since the crisis. She was weak, but her eyes had a sparkle that hadn't been there before. "Theodore," she said in a hoarse voice, "I dreamed about the sad man. He was in a house with white flowers." "Lily, I need to ask you some important questions. Did your grandmother teach you about other special places, other safes?" Her eyes lit up. "Grandma said the sad man hid treasures in 5 different places, one for each year he couldn't come home." 5 places. Do you know where they are?" "I do. It's all in my drawings. But there's one thing." "What?" "The angry woman knows about the places too. Grandma said she has a map." Theodore felt a cold pit in his stomach. If Catherine had a map of the locations where Everett had hidden evidence, it meant she could have destroyed everything. But it also meant there was a race against time, and Lily, even sick, was the only living person who could lead him to the secrets his grandfather had protected for 3 decades. The problem was that Catherine had also figured this out. In the early hours of the 4th day in the hospital, Lily woke up screaming. It wasn't a common nightmare. She was shouting the names of places with a precision that startled even Dr. Evans. "Bell Rock, Mulberry Grotto, Reservoir House," she repeated between sobs, even with her throat sore from the breathing tubes. Theodore rushed to the room. "Lily, calm down, you're safe." "Theodore," she whispered, grabbing his shirt, "the angry woman was in my dream. She was digging in Grandma's special places. What special places? The places where the sad man hid the important boxes. Her eyes filled with tears. She was breaking everything, burning the papers. Dr. Evans checked Lily's vital signs, concerned. The child is having extreme anxiety episodes. It could be a reaction to the medication, but it could also be psychological trauma. Doctor, these names, she shouted. They are real places in Iron Ridge, Theodore said. How would a 4-year-old know specific local names if she never left the landfill? Theodore looked at Lily, who had started drawing compulsively again, even with her hands shaking. Lily, did your grandmother tell you about these places? She took me there when I was little. She said I had to remember everything because one day it would be important. The drawing she was making showed a sequence of crude but surprisingly detailed maps. Bell Rock was represented by a large circle on top of a hill. Mulberry Grotto appeared as a cave with strange symbols. Reservoir House showed a building near a dam. Lily, can you remember more details about these places? She nodded weakly. At Bell Rock, there's a crooked tree that looks like a snake. In the grotto, there are old drawings on the wall. At the Reservoir House, there's a broken bridge. Theodore urgently photographed the drawings. If Catherine was really looking for these locations, he needed to get there first. At that moment, Dr. Evans returned with new test results. Her expression was grim. Mr. Sterling, I need to speak with you in private. In the hallway, she handed him medical reports that made his stomach clench. The toxins in Lily's system are causing progressive kidney failure. Her liver is also beginning to show signs of compromise. What does that mean? It means time is running out. If we can't reverse the situation in the next 48 hours, we'll have to consider more drastic procedures. What kind of procedures? Dialysis, possibly a kidney transplant in the future. Dr. Evans paused. Mr. Sterling, given her age and the extent of the damage, the chances of finding a compatible donor are low, he completed. Very low. Theodore returned to the room with a heavy heart. Lily was sleeping, but even in her sleep, her face showed pain. He picked up his phone and called Mr. Cole. Frank, I need you to go to Iron Ridge now. I have specific locations where my grandfather might have hidden evidence. Theodore, I might be paranoid, but I think my phone is being tapped. I had some strange visitors at the office yesterday. What kind of visitors? Men who identified themselves as tax auditors. They wanted to see all documents related to the investigations into the Sterling family. Theodore's blood ran cold. Catherine is using political influence. Worse than that, I found out she has connections in the district attorney's office and the state environmental department. If she wants to, she can bury any investigation. Frank, write down these addresses. Theodore, don't talk on the phone. If she's really monitoring, she'll know exactly where to look. After hanging up, Theodore watched Lily sleep. The girl had lost even more weight, and her skin had an alarming pallor. Still, her little fingers moved as if she were drawing in the air. At 6 in the evening, Catherine appeared at the hospital. This time, she wasn't alone. 3 men in suits accompanied her, including Mr. Riley. Theodore, we need to talk. Catherine, you are not allowed to be here. Actually, I am. She showed official papers. I got a court injunction. As the child's closest relative and considering her serious medical condition, I've obtained emergency temporary custody. Theodore read the documents quickly. It was all legal, signed by a judge he didn't know. This is impossible. I have custody of her. You had it. The judge found that you don't have the financial means to cover the necessary treatment. I can provide the best international specialists. Theodore, said Mr. Riley, the child needs care that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mrs. Catherine can arrange for experimental treatment in the United States. In exchange for what? Catherine approached. In exchange for your cooperation, stop digging into the family's past and I'll save the girl's life. You're blackmailing a sick child? I'm offering a practical solution to an impossible situation. Just then, Lily woke up. When she saw Catherine, her eyes widened in terror. "Theodore, don't let her take me, please!" The monitors began to beep frantically. Dr. Evans rushed into the room. "What's going on here? The child is in crisis." "Doctor," Catherine said calmly, "I am the new legal guardian for the child. I would like to transfer her to a private hospital." Dr. Evans looked confusedly between Catherine and Theodore. "Mr. Sterling, she forged documents," he said desperately. "The documents are legitimate," Mr. Riley intervened. "Here are the certificates proving the direct kinship." Dr. Evans examined the papers. "Mr. Sterling, if these documents are valid—" "Doctor," Lily whispered weakly, "I don't want to go with her. She's mean." "The child is confused by the medication," Catherine said. "It's normal in cases of severe poisoning." Theodore looked at Lily, then at the documents, then at Catherine. It was a perfect trap. If he tried to fight legally, it would take weeks, weeks that Lily didn't have. "Catherine, if I cooperate, if I stop investigating, will you really save her life? I have contacts at the best hospitals in the world, treatments that don't even exist in this country yet. And if I don't cooperate, then the child stays here in an overburdened public hospital until the inevitable." Lily squeezed Theodore's hand tightly. "Theodore, the special places. You have to go to the special places before she destroys everything. Lily, right now, you need to worry about getting better." "No!" she cried, trying to sit up in bed. "Grandma said the papers will save a lot of people, a lot of children like me." "What papers?" asked Catherine, her mask of concern slipping for a second. "The papers that prove you're evil," Lily said, looking directly at her. The silence in the room was tense. All the adults understood that this 4-year-old child knew exactly what was happening. "Mrs. Catherine," Dr. Evans said slowly, "perhaps it would be better to discuss these legal matters outside the room. The child needs quiet." "Of course, Doctor. Theodore, you have until tomorrow morning to decide. Cooperation or... well, I think you understand the consequences." After Catherine left, Theodore sat beside Lily's bed. The girl took his hand with fingers that seemed even smaller than before. "Theodore, are you going to leave me? Never, little one, never. Then are you going to the special places? Lily, if I go, you might be left alone with people you don't know." She smiled weakly. "Grandma always said that sometimes we have to be brave to protect the ones we love. Do you love me? More than anything in the world? Then be brave, and when you come back, I'll be waiting." That night, Theodore made the hardest decision of his life. He was going to risk everything in a race against time to find evidence that could not only save Lily, but also expose decades of crimes that had destroyed entire families. Theodore left the hospital at 5 in the morning, wearing dark clothes and a backpack with basic digging equipment. He had kissed Lily's forehead as she slept under sedation and whispered a promise that he would return with the answers she needed. The first stop was Bell Rock, a rock formation on a hilltop on the outskirts of Iron Ridge. He climbed the steep, dark trail, using only a small flashlight to avoid drawing attention. When he reached the top, he looked for the crooked tree Lily had drawn. He found it exactly as she had described, a century-old oak with a twisted trunk that truly resembled a serpent. At the base of the tree, protected by seemingly natural stones, were signs that someone had recently dug there. "Damn it!" Theodore muttered, clearing the dirt with his hands. The hole was empty, but there were still fragments of gold-colored metal at the bottom. Catherine had gotten there first. His phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. "First attempt. 4 remain. Her time is running out." Theodore ran down the mountain to his car and drove to Mulberry Grotto, a natural cave that was a local tourist attraction. He arrived as the sun was beginning to rise, but the cave entrance was still closed to the public. He forced the makeshift lock and entered the cave with his flashlight. The walls had ancient cave paintings, just as Lily had drawn. He followed the symbols as if they were a map, looking for any sign of a hiding place. In the back of the grotto, he found a ledge in the wall that looked artificial. He carefully removed a stack of stones and found another empty space. This time, there were crowbar marks on the rock, showing that someone had forced it open. Another text arrived, second attempt, 3 remaining. She's being transferred now. Theodore's heart raced. He called the hospital, but Dr. Evans was unavailable. The receptionist only confirmed that the patient in room 304 was transferred by family decision. Desperate, he drove to the reservoir house, an abandoned property near the old city dam. The place was more isolated, surrounded by dense woods and a wooden bridge that was indeed broken, just as Lily had drawn. This time, Theodore had better luck. He found the half-destroyed house and, in the back, a smaller building that seemed to have been a storage shed. At the base of a specific wall, where bricks were laid in a different pattern, he found the third safe before Catherine. His hands trembled as he tried to open the mechanism. He remembered the sequence Lily had used on the first safe and tried similar variations. On the 5th try, he heard the familiar click. Inside were documents that made his blood boil, forged contracts with Everett's signature dated after the accident, authorizing demolitions and illegal dumping. Photographs of toxic materials being dumped in what would become the landfill. And most shockingly, medical reports of other children from the region who had developed problems similar to Lily's. Theodore quickly photographed everything and put the originals in his backpack. There were 2 more locations in Lily's drawings, but his phone rang before he could leave the property. Theodore. And it was Catherine's voice. "I hope you're enjoying your morning stroll. Where is Lily?" "Safe, receiving top-quality medical care." Her voice had a triumphant tone. "I hope you found what you were looking for at the reservoir house. How did you—" "I've been following you since you left the hospital, dear nephew. Did you think I didn't know about the tracking devices in the company cars?" Theodore looked at his car in horror. It was a vehicle from the corporate fleet, equipped with a GPS monitoring system. "Catherine, you can't use Lily as a hostage." "I'm not using anyone as a hostage. I'm saving a child's life and protecting the family's assets. By the way, you've just been a great help." "How?" "Simple. Now I know where the third safe is, thanks to your digging. My men are on their way." Theodore ran to his car and accelerated toward the main road. He needed to get to the last 2 locations before Catherine's team, but when he tried to start the engine, nothing happened. "Car trouble?" a voice said behind him. He turned to see 2 men approaching the property. One of them was holding a device that had clearly disabled the vehicle's electrical system remotely. "Mr. Sterling," the first man said, "Mrs. Catherine would like you to return to the capital. The girl is asking for you. First, you're going to take me to the other 2 locations." "That won't be necessary. We already have the information we needed." Theodore looked at the backpack with the documents. "You have no idea what's in these papers, do you?" "We know they are old documents with no legal value. They are evidence of environmental crimes that caused the illness of Lily and other children. Crimes for which Catherine could get a life sentence." The 2 men looked at each other, clearly unsure how to proceed. Theodore seized the hesitation. "Listen, do you have children?" "I have a daughter about that girl's age," said the second man. "Then you understand this isn't about money or power. It's about a 4-year-old girl who was poisoned by your boss's crimes." "Mr. Sterling." "No," he interrupted, pulling up some photos of the documents on his phone. "Look at this. Medical reports of 7 children from the area who developed the same symptoms as Lily. They all lived near the landfill. They all died before the age of 10. The first man took the phone and examined the photos. His expression gradually changed. "My God," he murmured, "is this real?" "It's real, and Lily is the only survivor. If you help me find the rest of the evidence, we can not only save her but ensure this never happens to other children again." "Mark," the second man said to the first, "my daughter. She's had pneumonia 3 times this past year. The doctor said it might be something in the air." "Do you live near the old landfill?" Theodore asked. "About 2 miles away," Mark confirmed, his voice growing tense. "Then your families could be in danger too." The 2 men stepped away to talk in private. Theodore could hear fragments of the heated discussion. When they returned, Mark was holding the keys to a different car. "Mr. Sterling, let's go to the other locations. But if this is a trap, it's not a trap. It's the only chance to save Lily and maybe your own families." During the drive to the 4th location, Theodore received a call that changed everything. It was Dr. Evans, whispering urgently. "Mr. Sterling, I don't know if I should be calling, but the child is constantly asking for you. And there's something strange about the private hospital she was transferred to." "What kind of strange thing?" "It's not a regular hospital. It looks more like an experimental clinic. And the doctor in charge, he wouldn't give me any information about the treatment protocol." "Doctor, where is she exactly?" "The Hope Clinic, on the south side of the city." "But Mr. Sterling, I don't think they're actually trying to cure her." "What do you mean? It seems like they're studying her, as if she's a research case, not a patient." Theodore's stomach churned. "Doctor, do me a favor, call the media. Any journalist you know, tell them about the poisoning cases in the region." "Theodore, I could lose my license." "Doctor, if we don't do something now, we're going to lose Lily, and other children will continue to die." When they reached the 4th location, Mark and his partner helped Theodore quickly find the hidden safe. Inside was the most important document of all, a handwritten confession from Everett detailing all of Catherine's crimes and his own decision to hide to protect the evidence. But there was something more. A list with the names and addresses of 15 families affected by the toxic materials. Families who never knew their sick children were victims of a crime. Theodore's phone rang. It was Catherine, and her voice was no longer calm. "Theodore, your new friends have just disappointed me greatly. Come back to the capital now, or the child will participate in a very interesting experimental treatment." "Catherine, it's over. I have evidence of everything. Evidence with no legal value. But I have a child who means everything to you." The call dropped, and Theodore realized the war had reached the point of no return. The Hope Clinic was a modern building hidden behind high walls on the south side of the capital. Theodore arrived there with Mark and his partner Jeff, who had decided to help him after discovering their own families could be at risk. "How are we getting in?" Jeff asked, looking at the security cameras and the guards at the gate. "Through the front door," Theodore replied, checking the documents in his backpack one last time. "With all the evidence we have, Catherine can no longer just ignore me." At the reception, an elegant woman in a white coat tried to block their way. "Mr. Sterling, Mrs. Catherine was expecting only you. Change of plans. Where is Lily? The patient is undergoing treatment. She cannot receive visitors right now." Theodore showed his phone, where he had loaded photos of the most incriminating documents. "Call Catherine. Tell her I have evidence here that could send her to prison for 30 years. The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. 5 minutes later, Catherine came down personally, accompanied by a doctor Theodore didn't recognize. "Theodore, what a pleasant surprise, and I see you've brought company." "Catherine, I want to see Lily now." "Of course, but first, I want to see this alleged evidence." Theodore pulled a few original documents from his backpack, handwritten confession from Grandpa Everett. Medical reports of 15 children poisoned by your illegal dumping. Forged contracts with your signature faking his authorization. Catherine's face paled slightly, but she maintained her composure. Old documents can be easily forged. These weren't, and I have witnesses who can confirm their authenticity. Witnesses? Everett is still alive, Catherine. I found him in the clinic, where you kept him prisoner for 25 years. For the first time, Catherine completely lost her composure. That's impossible. He has severe dementia. He can't testify to anything. He may not be able to testify consistently, but there are detailed medical records of everything he told the nurses over the years, including the confession about how you faked his departure. The doctor beside Catherine whispered something in her ear. She nodded and turned to Theodore. Fine. You can see the child, but there's something you need to know first. What? Lily is not just Bernice's granddaughter, Theodore. She's Everett's direct great-granddaughter. Theodore frowned. What do you mean? Arthur Sterling, Lily's father, wasn't just any employee. He was Everett's son with a woman he loved before he married your grandmother. That's a lie. It's the truth. Everett had a relationship in his youth that resulted in a pregnancy. The family forced the woman away and she raised the boy alone. Years later, Arthur sought out his father and got a job at the company. Theodore felt the world spin. So Lily is. She's your cousin, Theodore, the daughter of your father's half-brother, the legitimate granddaughter of the family patriarch. Why are you telling me this now? Catherine smiled coldly. Because it changes everything. If Lily is Everett's direct heir, she's entitled to a significant portion of the family assets, much more than you. And what does that have to do with? It has to do with the fact that she'll never be able to claim that inheritance if she doesn't survive the poisoning. The threat was clear. Theodore looked at Mark and Jeff, who had perfectly understood what Catherine was insinuating. You're saying you'll let a child die to maintain control of the company. I'm saying accidents happen, especially with patients in critical condition. It was at that moment that a weak voice echoed down the hall. Theodore? It was Lily. She had managed to get out of her room and was stumbling down the corridor, holding an IV bag that dripped onto the floor. Lily! Theodore ran to her and scooped her up. The girl was visibly worse, her skin jaundiced and her eyes dull. Theodore, they're giving me strange medicine, she murmured. I'm not getting better. I'm getting worse. The doctor approached. The child needs to return to her room immediately. What medicine are you giving her? Theodore demanded. Experimental treatment for heavy metal poisoning. Experimental how? The doctor hesitated. Catherine answered for him. A protocol that could either save her life or accelerate the natural process. You're using Lily as a guinea pig. I'm giving her a chance she wouldn't have in a public hospital. Lily wrapped her arms around Theodore's neck. Theodore, did you find the important papers? I did, yes. All of them. There's just one place left. The last place is special, she said weakly. Grandma said it's where the sad man hid the most important document. What document? Asked Catherine, approaching. The one that will send you to jail, Lily replied, looking directly at her with a courage that was stunning for a 4-year-old. Lily, Catherine said in a forcedly sweet voice, you need to take your medicine. I don't want to. The medicine is making me sicker. Theodore looked at the doctor. Doctor, what exactly are the side effects of this experimental treatment? Well, there can be temporary organ failure. Temporary in a 4-year-old child? Mark spoke up. Doctor, is this a protocol approved by the medical board? It's a compassionate use protocol. That means it's not approved, said Jeff. You're testing experimental drugs on a child without authorization. Catherine lost her patience. Enough! Theodore, give me the documents or the child doesn't leave this clinic alive. Aunt, you're threatening a child in front of witnesses. Witnesses who work for me. Theodore looked at Mark and Jeff, who shook their heads. "Not anymore, Mrs. Catherine," Mark said. "Not after learning our children might be sick because of your crimes." It was then that Lily whispered something in Theodore's ear that changed everything. "Theodore, the last place isn't in my drawings, it's here." "Here where?" "Here in this place. Grandma brought the sad man here once. He hid something in the wall of the room where people wait." Theodore looked around. They were in the clinic's waiting room, an elegant space with leather armchairs and wood-paneled walls. "Lily, are you sure?" "I am. Grandma drew a map on our bedroom wall. It showed this building and a specific mark." Catherine stiffened. "That's impossible. This clinic was built only 10 years ago. On top of an old building," Lily said. "The sad man knew the old building." Theodore approached the paneled walls, looking for any irregularity. He found a section where the wood looked newer than the rest. "Mark, do you have any tools in the car?" "I have a screwdriver." 5 minutes later, Theodore was carefully removing the wood paneling. Behind it, embedded in the building's original wall, was a small but sturdy safe. "Lily, do you remember the sequence?" She nodded weakly and, despite her illness, guided Theodore's fingers over the correct buttons. The safe opened, revealing a single document that made Catherine recoil. It was Everett Sterling's original will, dated 1 week before his accident, naming Lily as the primary heir to the entire family estate if something happened to him and if she was found. "My God," Theodore murmured. He knew. He knew Lily existed, and he planned everything. Catherine looked at the document in horror. "That can't be valid. She wasn't even born when this was written." "But the document specifies the descendant of Arthur Sterling, regardless of when she is born," Theodore read. "Grandpa planned this years before Lily was born." It was then that Lily spoke the words that sealed Catherine's fate. "Grandma always said the sad man wasn't sad because he was sick. He was sad because he had to protect the family from someone very evil." At that moment, Theodore understood that the family's entire tragedy, Everett's disappearance, Bernice's exile, Lily's poisoning, had been orchestrated by a single person who had sacrificed everything and everyone to maintain a power that was never rightfully hers. The silence in the clinic's waiting room was broken by the sound of approaching sirens. Dr. Evans had kept her promise and contacted not only the media, but also the health authorities. 3 police cars pulled up in front of the building. "Catherine," Theodore said, holding Lily against his chest, "it's over. You'd better cooperate now." "This doesn't prove anything," she answered, but her voice trembled. "An old will doesn't invalidate 30 years of legal administration of the company. It doesn't invalidate it, but it proves premeditation. Everett knew you would try something and protected himself." At that moment, agents from the health department entered the clinic, accompanied by a public prosecutor whom Theodore recognized from the news. "Mr. Edward Miles," the prosecutor introduced himself, "we received a report of illegal experiments on a minor." The clinic's doctor turned pale. "Prosecutor, I can explain." "You can explain at the district attorney's office. For now, I want to see all medical protocols related to the child." Lily, who was growing weaker in Theodore's arms, murmured, "Theodore, I'm so tired." "I know, little one, but now you're going to get the right care." Mr. Miles quickly examined the documents Theodore had gathered. "Mr. Sterling, this evidence is extremely serious. We're talking about environmental crimes that affected multiple families." "Prosecutor," Mark interjected, "my daughter and several other children in the area have symptoms similar to this girl's. We will investigate everything, but first, we need to ensure proper medical care for the child." Catherine made one last desperate attempt. "Prosecutor, this man kidnapped a child from the public hospital. I was only trying to save her." "Mrs. Catherine," Mr. Miles said, looking at the papers, According to these documents, you authorized the illegal disposal of toxic materials that caused this child's poisoning. That is a felony crime against a minor. Those documents are fake. Are the medical reports of 15 children who developed the same symptoms fake? Are the chemical analyses of the materials found at the landfill fake? Lily weakly lifted her head. "Mister," she said to the prosecutor, "I have something important to tell you." Mr. Miles knelt to her level. "What is it, little one?" "The angry woman wasn't trying to heal me. She was giving me medicine to make me sicker." "How do you know that?" "Because after I took the medicine, I got more yellow and my tummy hurt more, and her doctor would whisper that it was to accelerate the process." The prosecutor looked sternly at the clinic's doctor. "Doctor, what protocol exactly was being used on this patient?" It was an experimental compassionate treatment, not approved by the medical board, I imagine. There was no time for formal approval, no time or no intention of seeking approval. Theodore addressed the prosecutor. "Mr. Miles, I have evidence here showing that Catherine Sterling kept my grandfather, Everett, in captivity for 25 years to hide environmental crimes. Lily is his legitimate granddaughter and the legal heir to the estate. An estate that Mrs. Catherine was illegally managing," Mr. Miles added, flipping through the will. "That constitutes qualified embezzlement." Just then, the journalists arrived. Dr. Evans had done a thorough job, contacting both local TV and newspapers specializing in environmental investigation. "Mr. Miles," a reporter shouted, "is it true there's a case of systematic child poisoning in the Iron Ridge area?" "The investigations are ongoing," he replied diplomatically. But Theodore made a decision that would change everything. "Reporter, I want to make a public statement." "Theodore, no!" Catherine tried to stop him. "My name is Theodore Sterling. This is Lily, 4 years old, granddaughter of our family's patriarch. She was poisoned by toxic waste illegally dumped by my aunt, Catherine Sterling, 30 years ago." The cameras immediately turned to him. "Mr. Sterling, can you detail these accusations? I have documents here that prove Catherine forged signatures, illegally dumped toxic material, and held my grandfather in captivity to hide these crimes. Furthermore, there is evidence that at least 15 children in the region have died due to these materials." Catherine tried to leave the clinic, but Mark and Jeff discreetly blocked her path. "Mrs. Catherine," the reporter said, "how do you respond to these accusations? They are lies from a resentful nephew who wants to take control of the family business." Lily, though weak, managed to say loud enough for the cameras to pick up, "She's the angry woman who made Grandma cry." The impact of a sick child's statement was immense. The cameras focused on Lily, small and fragile in Theodore's arms, clearly fighting a serious illness. "Sweetie," the reporter said gently, "can you tell us what happened to you? I lived in a dirty place because the angry woman threw poison there. Then I got sick, but Theodore saved me." Mr. Miles realized the impact of the moment. "Members of the press, I can confirm there is consistent evidence of serious environmental crimes that have resulted in the poisoning of multiple children over 3 decades. "Prosecutor," another journalist asked, "will there be arrests?" "The investigations will determine criminal responsibilities." At that moment, a city ambulance arrived. Dr. Evans had requested an immediate transfer for Lily to the university hospital, far from Catherine's influence. As the paramedics prepared Lily for transport, she held Theodore's hand. "Theodore, did we do it?" "Did we do what, little one?" "Did we protect the other children?" "We did. Yes, thanks to you and your grandmother's courage." "Would Grandma be happy?" "She would be very proud of you." As the ambulance left with Lily, Theodore turned to Catherine, who was being aggressively questioned by the journalists. "Catherine," he said, You destroyed entire families for greed. You killed innocent children. You kept my grandfather a prisoner for 3 decades. Theodore, you don't understand the pressures I was facing. I understand perfectly. You chose profit over human lives. Mr. Miles approached. Mrs. Catherine Sterling, you are under arrest for qualified environmental crime, unlawful imprisonment, document forgery, and attempted murder. Attempted murder? The experimental protocol used on the child, according to our expert, had no curative purpose. It was meant to accelerate organ failure. Catherine looked around, seeking an escape, but she was surrounded by authorities, journalists, and the 2 people she had underestimated, Mark and Jeff, who now understood that their own families had been victims of her crimes. Mrs. Catherine, Mark said, my 5-year-old daughter has had pneumonia 3 times this year. The doctor said it might be exposure to environmental toxins. And my youngest son was born with respiratory problems, Jeff added. We live 2 miles from the old landfill. Mr. Miles took note. We will investigate all cases in the region. If there is a pattern of illnesses related to the illegal dumping, those responsible will be held criminally liable. When Catherine was finally taken away, she shouted at Theodore, you don't know how to run a company. You'll destroy everything I spent 30 years building. Aunt, he replied calmly, I'm going to rebuild our company based on honesty and responsibility. Something you never understood. That night, Theodore slept in a chair beside Lily's bed at the university hospital. For the first time in days, she was receiving real treatment, not disguised experiments. Dr. Evans, who had coordinated the transfer, brought good news. Theodore, we've suspended the experimental protocol and started standard treatment for heavy metal poisoning. Lily is already responding better. Will she make a full recovery? It will take time, possibly years. But yes, with the right treatment, she can have a normal life. Doctor, I want her to have access to the best treatments available. Money is no object. Theodore, based on the will you found, Lily is entitled to that on her own. It was true. The girl who had grown up in a landfill, poisoned by the crimes of a greedy woman, had just become one of the wealthiest people in the state. But Theodore knew that for Lily, the real treasure wasn't in the golden safes she had learned to open. It was in the family she had finally found and the future she could now have. 2 weeks after Catherine's arrest, Lily showed consistent signs of improvement. Her eyes had regained some of their sparkle, the yellowish tint of her skin was fading, and she could sit up in bed for longer periods. But it was during one of these mornings that news arrived that would deeply shake both Theodore and the girl herself. Dr. Evans entered the room with a serious expression, accompanied by an unfamiliar, fragile-looking woman. Theodore, this is Hope Miller. She asked to see Lily. Theodore frowned. Hope was a familiar name. Lily had mentioned her mother was called that. But Beatrice had always said she had passed away. Mr. Sterling, Hope said in a trembling voice, I am Lily's mother. The silence in the room was deafening. Lily, who had been drawing, slowly looked up and fixed her gaze on the woman. You're my mommy? She asked with a simplicity that broke everyone's heart. I am, my darling. I'm so sorry I was away for so long. Theodore stood up confused, but Beatrice said that. Beatrice lied to protect all of us, Hope interrupted. I didn't pass away, Theodore. I was forcibly committed by Catherine Sterling. The revelation struck like lightning. What do you mean, forcibly committed? 4 years ago, when Lily was still a baby, I discovered that Arthur was investigating the company's environmental crimes on his own. He had found evidence that could incriminate Catherine. And what happened? Hope sat heavily in the chair next to the bed. Arthur confronted Catherine. A week later, he suffered a fatal work accident at one of the construction sites. "My daddy was killed?" Lily asked, her voice small but strangely mature. "It was no accident, my child, but at the time we had no way to prove it." Theodore felt his blood run cold. Catherine had Arthur killed? Not directly, but the circumstances were too convenient. A scaffold that collapsed exactly when he was underneath it, with no other workers getting hurt. "And you? Why were you committed?" "Because I tried to investigate Arthur's death. I sought out lawyers, journalists, even the police. Catherine used her influence to make me seem mentally unstable. She got a compulsory commitment order claiming I was neglecting Lily. Dr. Evans consulted some papers. Hope was released 3 weeks ago. When the Catherine case came to light and her diagnoses were reviewed by an independent medical board, Lily reached out a small hand to touch Hope's face. "Why did Grandma Beatrice say you went away?" "Because it was easier for a little girl to understand that her mother was gone than to know she was locked up in a bad place. Beatrice visited me in secret," Hope continued. "She told me about you, about how you were growing up beautiful and smart, and she told me about the safes Everett had left." Theodore moved closer. "Hope, did you know about my grandfather?" "I knew he was alive and in hiding. Beatrice told me everything in recent years. She was preparing Lily for the day the truth would come out." "Is that why she taught Lily to open the safes?" "That, and because Lily has an incredible photographic memory. Beatrice knew that if something happened to her, Lily would be able to remember everything." At that moment, Mr. Cole arrived at the hospital with news on the developing investigation. "Theodore, the situation is getting more complicated for Catherine. We found evidence that she may have been responsible for at least 3 suspicious deaths over the last 30 years. 3? Arthur, obviously, but also an engineer who had discovered irregularities in the chemical disposals in 1995, and a journalist who was investigating the company in 2010. Hope confirmed. The journalist was Rodrigo Mendez. He was helping Arthur with the investigation before he died in a car crash. "My God," Theodore murmured. "How many people did she destroy?" "More than we imagined. But there's good news," said Mr. Cole. "Based on the evidence we found, the district attorney's office is offering free medical treatment to all the families affected by the contamination." "How many families are there?" "So far, we've identified 47 families in the region who had at least one member with symptoms consistent with heavy metal poisoning." Lily, who had been listening silently, asked a question that surprised everyone. "Theodore, now that my mommy is back, do I have to leave?" The question touched the heart of an issue Theodore had avoided thinking about. Legally, Hope had the right to custody of Lily, but emotionally, he and the girl had formed a bond that went beyond legal matters. "Lily," Hope said gently, "do you want to stay with Theodore?" "I want to stay with both of you. Can I?" Hope looked at Theodore. "Mr. Sterling, I know you took care of my daughter when I couldn't, and I know she loves you like a father. Hope, I love Lily as if she were my own daughter, but I understand that you are her mother. Then maybe we can find a solution that's good for everyone." Mr. Cole spoke up. "Actually, there's an interesting legal point here. As Lily is Everett's primary heir, she needs a legal guardian until she comes of age. That guardian doesn't necessarily have to be just one person." "What do you mean?" "Shared guardianship. Hope as the biological mother and Theodore as the legal guardian of the assets, both with responsibilities for Lily's well-being." The solution pleased everyone, especially Lily, who clapped her hands weakly. "Does that mean I'll have a mommy and a daddy?" she asked. It means you'll have a complete family, Theodore replied, moved. In the following days, a new routine was established. Hope stayed with Lily during the day, telling stories about Arthur and helping the girl understand the emotional legacy of having a father who died trying to do the right thing. Theodore visited every evening, bringing books, toys, and gradually teaching Lily about the responsibility that would come with her inheritance. "Lily," he said one evening, "when you grow up, you'll be the owner of a very big company. What do you want to do with it?" "I want it to help other children like me," she answered without hesitation. "Children who got sick because bad people did bad things. That's a very good idea. And I want to build beautiful houses where orphan children can live, houses with gardens and real birds." It was at that moment Theodore understood that Lily's wisdom went far beyond her ability to memorize locations or open safes. She had developed a deep understanding of suffering and compassion that many adults never achieve. A week later, the news they had all been waiting for arrived. Everett had been transferred to a specialized dementia hospital where he would receive proper care. More importantly, he had been officially recognized as a victim of unlawful imprisonment, not as a voluntary patient. "Can I meet my great-grandpa?" Lily asked. "When you're stronger," Theodore promised. "He will be very happy to meet you." That night, Lily made a different drawing than usual. Instead of birds or houses, she drew a huge tree with many people underneath it. At the top of the tree were two figures she identified as Grandpa Everett and Grandma Beatrice, looking down with smiles. "They're happy because the family is together again," she explained. "And you, Lily, are you happy?" "I am. Even though I'm sick, I'm happy, because now I know I'm loved." It was a simple statement, but it perfectly summed up the journey of a girl who had started out alone in a landfill and discovered she belonged to a family that would fight any battle to protect her. Lily's healing process would be long, but for the first time since she was found, she was sure she wouldn't face it alone. 6 months later, Lily stood in the garden of the new house Theodore had bought specifically to accommodate his unconventional family. It was a large property on the outskirts of the capital, with extensive gardens where she could run without getting tired quickly, and a special art studio where her drawings now covered entire walls. "Theodore, look!" she shouted, pointing to a hummingbird that had landed on the new birdhouse they had installed the week before. "He looks just like the ones in my old drawings." Theodore smiled, watching how she had changed. She was still small for her age due to the months of illness, but her eyes shone with a life that wasn't there when he found her in the landfill. Her hair had grown long and was now kept in 2 braids that Hope plaited every morning. "And how do you feel today?" he asked, a question that had become a daily ritual since the doctors confirmed the treatment was working. "I feel strong," she replied, flexing her thin little arms. "Dr. Evans said I can start school next month." The prospect of school was something that made Lily both excited and nervous. She had spent so much time isolated that the idea of being with other children was new and frightening. "Theodore," she said, taking his hand, "will the other kids know I'm different?" "Different how? That I used to live in a dirty place and almost died from poison?" Theodore knelt beside her. "Lily, you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by who you choose to be. And who do I choose to be? A brave girl who helped protect other families from something very bad." At that moment, Hope appeared on the porch, followed by an unexpected visitor. Mr. Miles, the prosecutor, was accompanied by a young woman Theodore didn't recognize. "Theodore," said Mr. Miles, "this is journalist Patricia Sands. She's doing a special report on the impact of the environmental investigations in the region." "Mr. Sterling," said Patricia, "I'd like to talk with you all about the developments in the Catherine Sterling case." "What kind of developments?" Her trial begins next week, but more importantly, the environmental remediation actions your company has initiated have become a national model. It was true. In recent months, Theodore had completely transformed Sterling Construction. With Lily as the primary heir and him as the administrator, they had invested millions in cleaning up not only the old landfill, but also other areas affected by Catherine's illegal dumping. "Patricia," said Hope, joining the group, "how are the other affected families?" "That's what's most impressive. Of the 47 families identified, 43 have had at least one member show significant improvement after starting the treatment funded by the Sterling Company." Lily approached shyly. "Miss, does that mean the other kids are getting better too?" "It means exactly that, sweetie, and there's something else." "Duh, what?" "Because of your courage in reporting what happened, the government has created a national program for monitoring childhood environmental contamination." Pride swelled in Theodore's chest. "Lily, you saved many more children than we ever imagined." "But I didn't do anything special," she protested. "I just told the truth." "Sometimes," said Mr. Miles, "telling the truth is the bravest thing anyone can do." During the interview that followed, Lily surprised everyone by articulately expressing her plans for when she grew up. "I want to turn the company into something that helps instead of hurts," she said. "Theodore explained to me that when I'm big, I'll get to decide what to do with the family's money." "And what do you want to do?" asked Patricia. "I want to build special homes for orphan children like I was, and I want to plant trees in all the places where there was poison." "And school? Are you excited?" "I'm nervous," Lily admitted, "but Mommy Hope said it's normal to be nervous about new things." After the visitors left, the family had their first formal meeting about the company's future. It was something Theodore had postponed until Lily was strong enough to understand the implications. "Lily," he began, "you know that when you turn 18, you'll have to make important decisions about the company." "I know, but that's so far away." "It is, but we can start preparing you a little at a time." "How?" "By visiting the projects we're doing now, meeting the people who work with us, learning how to do things the right way." Hope joined the conversation. "Lily, remember the story I told you about your father? That he wanted to make the world a better place? Exactly. Now you have the chance to continue the work he started." A week later, the day everyone had been anxiously awaiting arrived. Lily's first visit to Everett at the new clinic where he was staying. The great-grandfather had had a few lucid moments recently, and the doctors thought meeting Lily could be beneficial for both of them. The Monteverde clinic was completely different from the place where Catherine had kept him. Well-tended gardens, spacious rooms with mountain views, and a medical team genuinely dedicated to the patient's recovery. "Lily," Theodore said as they walked down the hall, "your great-grandpa might not remember everything. His illness affects his memory. That's okay. Grandma Beatrice always said the important thing isn't to remember everything, but to remember love." When they entered Everett's room, he was sitting in an armchair near the window, watching the birds in the garden. When he saw Lily, his eyes lit up in a way that surprised even the doctors. "You are? You are the girl from the drawings," he said in a weak but clear voice. "Hi, great-grandpa," Lily said, approaching slowly. "I'm Lily. Lily, like the flower Beatrice used to plant in the garden. Grandma Beatrice talked a lot about you. She said you were very good." Everett took her small hand. "Beatrice? Where is Beatrice?" Lily looked at Theodore, who nodded encouragingly. "Grandma had to go away, great-grandpa, but she taught me all about the secret safes." "The safes," Everett murmured, and for a moment his expression became more focused. "Did you find all the safes?" "We found them, and we used the papers to lock up the evil woman. Catherine, she can't hurt anyone anymore. Everett smiled, the first genuine smile he had given in years. Beatrice would be proud of you, little one. They spent an hour together, with Lily showing her most recent drawings and Everett sharing fragments of memories about the company's early years, when it was still just a dream of doing good for the community. "Great-grandpa," Lily said before leaving, "I'm going to take good care of the company. I'm going to do it like you wanted in the beginning. I know you will, my dear. You have the family's eyes that see what is right." On the way back, Lily was quiet, processing the meeting. "Theodore," she said finally, "he's sad because he lost so much time away from the family, right?" "I think so." "Then I'm going to visit him a lot, so he never feels alone again." It was a simple promise, but one that perfectly summarized Lily's transformation from an abandoned child into an heir committed to social responsibility. That night, she made her last drawing related to the golden safe that had changed her life. But this time, instead of showing safes being opened, she drew children playing in clean gardens, birds flying free over colorful houses, and at the center of it all, a large tree where a family, Theodore, Hope, herself, and the ethereal figures of Beatrice and Everett, was gathered together. "This is how things are going to be from now on," she said, handing the drawing to Theodore. "A family that takes care of each other and protects all the other families too." 6 months later, when Lily turned 5, the party was held in the garden of the new house. Present were not only her family, but also Mark, Jeff, and their daughters, who had become inseparable friends with Lily, Dr. Evans, Mr. Cole, and several other families who had been helped by the Environmental Recovery Program. When it was time to blow out the candles, Lily made her wish out loud so everyone could hear. "I wish that all the children in the world have families who love them, and that no one ever gets sick again because of the badness of grown-ups." That night, as Lily slept peacefully in her room, decorated with colorful birds, Theodore and Hope talked on the porch about the future. "Do you think we made the right choices?" Hope asked. "I think Lily showed us that there's always a chance to make the right choices, even when the world seems to be against us." "And the company, do you think she'll really be able to transform it when she grows up?" Theodore smiled, looking through the window into the room where Lily slept, surrounded by drawings of a better future. "Hope, she's already started the transformation. The company, our family, the whole region. A 5-year-old girl accomplished what adults took decades to ruin. How did she do it? By doing the simplest and hardest thing in the world, telling the truth and choosing love over fear. And so the girl who was found sleeping on toxic debris next to a golden safe grew up to become not just the heir to a fortune, but the guardian of a legacy of social responsibility that would forever change how her family saw the world. The golden safe had kept secrets for 3 decades, but Lily had discovered that the real treasure was not in the hidden documents, but in the courage to use those secrets to protect others, turning pain into purpose and injustice into hope for future generations. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story with a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.